I'm so glad I have you on the show, Ashley. It was really funny because, well, not funny in that sense, but I literally just went to this women network about health, women health, and one of the doctor was just talking about PCOS. And I, be honest with you, before I went to that seminar, I never know about PCOS. But when the doctor, the founder of the supplement, she also came out with a supplement helping women. Um, I she was giving you the sign how you diagnose yourself as PCOS because she's saying a lot of time women don't get diagnosed with that. So when she was going to the list, you see all the women like looking at each other. It was like, oh my God, that's me, that's me, that's me. So then we got connected and then you were talking about PCOS. I feel like it's a sign for the universe that I need to get you on my show because I, if I can help other women to not like to diagnose themselves, obviously not medically, but you know your body and your body know yourself the most. So if there's a way that, I can help other women to be more aware, then I did my job. So Ashley, tell me about it. Tell me about like how you got involved in PCOS, how you know about PCOS, because I didn't know anything about it till like literally like right before we met.
And it's funny that you say that. And thank you so much for having me and for helping raise awareness for PCOS because it really is an underserved women's health condition. There are still up to 70% of women who have PCOS who are undiagnosed, which is astounding. But back when I was first diagnosed in 1999, there was even less information available at that time.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
it was awful.
frustrating,
It's extreme.
and yes. And this is the reason why I really, it's important to me to make sure more women know about their health, and then anything we can do to help or make them aware is great. So yeah, go on.
So a lot of people get PCOS confused as an infertility issue or a reproductive issue, and the name can be a little misleading with polycystic ovary syndrome, but it's actually an endocrine disorder and it affects
Oh,
hormonally, metabolically, reproductively, and even psychologically. It
even
really,
psychologically?
oh yeah, there's an increased risk for depression and anxiety. I believe it's 45% of women with PCOS have depression and or I'm sorry, 45% of women with PCOS have anxiety and 34% have depression. There's also a high
Hmm.
prevalence of eating disorders, bipolar disorder. So there is a connection because, again, it deals with the hormones.
Actually, I'm glad that the first thing you point out is which I fall into that category. I thought PC first of all, I didn't know what PCOS was, and then I thought PCOS have to do with the fertility. That was it. So when you just list all the stuff and even mental, psychologically, that's when I was like, what? What?
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah.
How? Like, uh-huh.
Well, I mean, I can only tell you about my experience and what I went through, and maybe that shed a little bit of light on what people go through and what actually the condition can mean for someone. So
Okay.
I was officially diagnosed in 1999 when I was trying to get pregnant, and I was having irregular menstrual cycles, and I was not getting pregnant no matter what I tried, and I was just
Even with the regular cycle. Even with the regular cycle. Okay.
even with a regular cycle, you can sometimes, yeah, have
Right.
problems with getting pregnant or even maintaining the pregnancy with PCOS. There's a high prevalence of miscarriage with
Ooh.
PCOS as well. So that's when I was officially diagnosed. But when I sat back and I looked at my life, I said, oh my goodness, I was actually seeing these signs when I first started puberty. So when I was 13 years old, I had irregular menstrual cycles and I had facial hair and I had acne. And most doctors, when you're going through that at puberty, will tell you, oh, that's just part of growing into womanhood.
Well, that's what
Because
I was gonna say. Yeah, yeah.
so it's hard for younger women and girls to be diagnosed with PCOS because it does mimic puberty. But when I wasn't having my periods, when I did finally get a period, maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, I would bleed really heavily. I would almost hemorrhage. And I remember at one point, and this was horrific being in junior high school, that I hadn't had a menstrual cycle for maybe 4 or 5 months. And I was sitting in class
I
and
I'd be so happy. I would be like, no, period. Yes. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, most people would say that, but when the lining builds up over a period of time and you have a period, it's not a pretty
Heavy,
sight.
yeah. Yeah.
I was in school and I basically hemorrhaged in the middle of class in front of all of my classmates. And it was at
Oh.
that point that my mother said, I think we need to see an OBGYN or try to figure this out. When I went to the OBGYN, he said the same thing that most people and most doctors would say. Oh, you're having a hard time with puberty and growing into things. I'm going to give you a pack of pills. You stay on these, it'll regulate things. It'll help you with all of these acne issues that you're having. And then I'll never forget, he said to me, and when you're ready to have kids, you'll come back and see me. That was it. There was no further explanation.
Hmm.
There was no further understanding on my part, on my parents' part. It was just puberty. Then when I was about 16 years old, I started having problems with maintaining my weight. It would go up and down. I know this sounds really weird, but I had like outrageous frizzy hair. I started having severe acne again. And again, it was chalked up to puberty. So it wasn't until 1999 when I was trying to get pregnant that I actually pieced all of this together and realized the symptoms that the doctors were telling me were puberty and just putting me on pills to mask what was going on was
And do you know
really,
what medication or solution the doctor was giving you?
it was birth control pills
Oh,
at 13 years
yeah.
old, which is a first line treatment for PCOS. The only problem is, again, with birth control pills, they're great at regulating the period and keeping the symptoms under control, but it really masks what is going on behind the scenes. And what had happened is I finally went back to that doctor because I was ready to have kids in 1999. Went
And
off the
he's still practicing.
and went off the birth control pills, and literally, I wish I was making this up, within a 2 month period I had put on close to 100 pounds. I started getting skin tags, acne, the facial hair, everything just came back with a vengeance because the birth control pills were suppressing everything and
Ah,
the symptoms. So as soon as I went off, it's like, hey, guess what? We've been waiting for you. Here we are. And all of these
oof.
symptoms kind of came out, the weight gain. And then when I tried to talk to doctors about all of these symptoms, because I was really worried about all of it, I was basically told that I'm stressing myself out because I'm trying to get pregnant and I'm overeating to compensate for not getting pregnant. I mean, I was gaslighted left and right, and nobody giving me solutions for probably about 2 to 3 years, probably seeing about 7 or 8 doctors before I walked in and saw a resident, and I said, okay, I'm just going to tell you my story that I've been telling everybody else. And if you think I'm crazy, then okay, after this, I'm just going to give up and deal with it. And I told him my story and what was going on. And he left the room, and I went, oh my Lord, what's wrong with me? He just left the room. He came back with a textbook and he opened it, and there were 4 little letters, PCOS, and the definition. And that was really what was going to define my life and my advocacy from that day on, because someone finally listened to me.
It literally took you a decade for somebody finally to listen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, being a teenager,
And it's
and
not a doctor, it was a resident,
it
right?
was a
He was a resident.
correct. And I was fortunate that, as a resident, that they were starting to teach them a little bit about PCOS. Now,
Hmm.
What I've been told by many doctors is nowadays they maybe spend 30 minutes of time in their rotations talking about PCOS. And you would think that a condition that affects 1 in 5 women worldwide, that people would, want to learn more about that and teach more about that. But it's not the case. It's still really pretty much brushed under the rug.
Horrible. And
It
then
truly.
and then so with that, did you the resident family at least now you identify what it is, and that's how you became an advocate for PCOS. So, and then how that affect your fertility? What at least did you got treated? Did it went well?
Yes. So with my infertility, I went to a reproductive endocrinologist. So, my particular journey, I was put on oral infertility medications. Those didn't
Mm-hmm.
work. And then I started doing injections, and that did work. And I was able to get pregnant. But if you recall me saying that there is a high prevalence of pregnancy loss a lot of times with women with PCOS. So I was having a really hard time maintaining the pregnancy. And then I had to be put on progesterone and all types of other medications just to maintain the pregnancy through the first trimester. And then when I got to the third trimester with my daughter, I was put on bed rest for the last couple of weeks because I was having problems again. Because there are a lot of problems that can occur throughout pregnancy with PCOS as well. Um, but bottom line, I was able to get pregnant with help. And, I have a beautiful daughter. And after I had my daughter, I decided that I was going to get healthy with PCOS. And there are some medications it's called metformin, and it helps with blood sugar and insulin. And I was given lifestyle management with proper nutrition and exercise and ways to relieve stress. And I took off about 60 pounds and started doing really well. And amazingly enough, I got pregnant again doing things
Oh,
this way. So I had my son about a year and a half after my daughter. And, I guess if anything, the message is when someone goes in to see a doctor for PCOS and infertility, a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, there's not a very good probability, but there
mm-hmm.
is. Uh, Women with PCOS get pregnant all of the time. It's just a
Okay.
matter of
Good
finding
to know.
what works. Yes, it's a matter of finding out what works for you. And again, it could be taking infertility
Mm-hmm.
medications, or it could be just changing your lifestyle and managing things that way. So don't lose hope. And
But
if somebody tells you no,
yeah, but how do women advocate for themselves? Like how, because it seemed like most doctors didn't even diagnose the woman correctly, right? So when I went to that women health network, she was listing all the symptoms. A lot of us raised our hand, and just like you went to your doctor, actually someone being seeing you for many years still did not diagnose you with PCOS, right? So how what can we do, like making sure that we get the right diagnosis or asking for all right when we go see our doctor?
it's really through research and through connecting with people that understand PCOS, whether it be a specialist, whether it be an advocate, whether it be an organization. I've been advocating for 25 years, and I put a lot of information on the internet. There are organizations like PCOS Challenge, which is the national PCOS organization in the United
Mm-hmm.
States and a leading organization worldwide. They have a wealth of information. They have educational series. I'm not even opposed to telling people to look things up on Google, but here is the unfortunate part that a lot of information still refers to PCOS as being a condition of reproductive aged women. So, what does that mean? That means that basically PCOS is only affecting women between maybe 13 and 45, which is ridiculous. It is a lifelong condition. You have it
Yeah, I
from,
didn't know that. Thank you.
yeah, and it's with you from when you're born until when you die. And quite honestly,
Wow.
some of the more severe symptoms of
Uh-huh.
PCOS and the consequences come later in life. And that's something that I've been dealing with in midlife that I never anticipated. So, when you're younger, yes, you're dealing with your period, with excess facial hair, a lot of things that may bother you from a cosmetic perspective. You're dealing also with infertility because you can't get pregnant because you have irregular menstrual cycles. But what they don't tell you is if this pattern continues, there are other things that can happen, like your insulin might be just a little high or peaking a little
Mm.
bit. But the longer that insulin goes on untreated, the more it builds and it causes other complications like high blood pressure, high
Ugh.
cholesterol. And you'll even see that there are some teenagers with PCOS that deal with high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And again, they
Well,
attribute.
you find out when you have it by looking back. It's like when you just a 13-year-old girl, right? So
Right,
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, blood pressure, high cholesterol, and then
Hmm.
dealing with there's an increased risk for heart disease, for stroke, um, that they don't talk about. There's a higher risk for endometrial cancer because you go all those years with having all those irregular periods where you're not
Yeah.
regularly shedding the endometrial lining every month. And because of that, it builds up and it can predispose you to endometrial cancer. So these are things that we really have to start talking about and focusing on. And while it may not be something that parents or younger girls want to talk about, they do
Mhm.
need to be aware that the steps they take when they are younger can affect their outcomes later in life.
Okay, girls, please listen to her. Listen to Ashley. So what can you do, if it's a young girl who hear this on this episode, what would you advocate for them or keep pushing them to do?
To talk with their healthcare provider. And one thing that I like to tell people is not every health provider is going to be an expert in everything. So if they don't feel that they're getting the right information or the correct answers for themselves, to keep pushing forward, seeing other providers, ask their general practitioner, is there somebody who might specialize in these symptoms that I can talk to, whether it be an endocrinologist, be an OBGYN. There are even nutritionists that specialize in PCOS.
Hmm.
So it's just looking for someone who is well versed in the condition. And you can do that again through referrals through your provider. You can do that through the organizations like PCOS Challenge. And even
Hmm.
on Instagram, there are a wealth of unbelievable providers that do naturopathic nutrition, that do all these different modalities for PCOS that have a wealth of information and can provide them resources in getting diagnosed and how to, once they get diagnosed, deal with the symptoms of
Yeah,
PCOS.
because you also mentioned that the way how you be in control and to be healthy, you have to change your lifestyle. In what way that people can do on their own?
Well, one of the things with PCOS that I mentioned was insulin resistance. So,
Hmm.
insulin, one of the factors with insulin is it can cause weight gain. So, you want to try to make sure to maintain a healthy weight. And that's not always easy with PCOS. And I say that very cautiously because that can be a trigger for a lot of patients with PCOS. Because when we go in to talk to our doctors and we're telling
Hmm.
them that we're having a problem with weight, their first response is often, well, try harder, eat less food. And that causes a lot of eating disorders
Yeah.
within our community because we're all trying.
Oh, that's why you mentioned that. You did. You said it caused eating disorder.
It,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Okay.
And, it's because we're trying, but if we're not given the proper tools and resources,
It's
if we
frustrating.
if we don't know that eating less carbs can be helpful, if we don't know lowering our sugar could be helpful. If we don't know exercising is good, but too much exercise may not be good for PCOS, believe it or not. I mean, these are all
Wow.
things that people aren't told. So it's really hard to navigate through all of these and to change your lifestyle if you don't know how. So that's why, again, doing something with a nutritionist, with a therapist, with a general practitioner, like basically a combination of providers, I think is the best route to go for people. And there are also a lot of companies that offer these services. There are PCOS centers across the United States that have, psychologists, OBGYNs that have all these different providers. So I always say, look at this, that this condition is multifaceted. So your care should be multifaceted as well. So that's what I would recommend.
And I know you're also a coach, right? So do you coach women who suffering PCOS and then helping them to treat themselves in the multi-dimensional tool?
Yes. The one thing about PCOS is every program, every therapy should be individualized because
Okay.
no two women with PCOS are the same. There are some women who may be thin who might be dealing just with androgen excess with PCOS and, are not worried about weight or fertility or some of these other problems.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll tailor the program to dealing with their androgen excess and, facial hair or acne or problems they're having from androgen excess. Then you have some women that, again, deal with the insulin resistance. So you want to look at programs that are tailored more towards maintaining a healthy weight, or maybe their goal is to have a baby. So then you'd look at things from the perspective of helping them get pregnant. So some women with PCOS can have one symptom, some women can have 20 symptoms. And that's why it's called a syndrome as opposed to a disease, because there is no
Okay.
set pattern. It can vary from person to person.
What have you seen changes regarding to diagnosis with PCOS or treatment? Because you've been diagnosed with this. Well, you didn't get diagnosed till much later, but you suffered from PCOS since you were 13. So from the time you were age 13 till now, do you see any progress with PCOS treatment, or at least services awareness for more women?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of gaps when it comes to PCOS. And again, that comes from years of it being considered a reproductive disorder
Mm-hmm.
that focused on just regulating periods and infertility. So it's just now that experts are starting to recognize PCOS as endocrine and affects patients, again, reproductively, hormonally, metabolically, and psychologically. So,
Yeah, I just learned this today, like at this podcast. Thank you. Yeah.
So often patients are dismissed, and providers are still stating that patients are dealing with cosmetic and fertility issues. So
Mm-hmm.
again, without the proper resources and support, this sets patients up for failure. So when patients are dismissed and gaslighted, it becomes not only a physical battle, but an emotional one as well. So there's so much conflicting information about the syndrome because there is no known cause.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not enough research that patients are not always given the right and best resources unless they utilize, again, a provider who understands PCOS. So what we need at this point is we need more research. We need more doctors to be engaged in learning about PCOS and working with patients and organizations that deal with this condition.
So
Because if
more,
not,
so more education, right? So the doctors need to be more aware. Okay.
yeah, definitely need to be more aware. And, a lot of it comes down to, unfortunately, funding, and the government spends less than 0.1%
Mm.
of funding on research for PCOS. So
Oh,
what
just let you know, just on women health in general is much less. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
what we can do to change that is show up. We have PCOS advocacy days every spring where we go down to Washington, D.C., and we
Oh,
lobby
it
with.
is? When is it? I should definitely let people know.
Yeah, it's usually in March and April, and
March
we
and
always look
April.
for representation from every single state. And we literally sit down with senators, with Congress people, with staff members, and we educate them about PCOS, and we let them know why it's important for them to pass legislation to support PCOS awareness and PCOS funding. There are changes. There have been a lot of positive things. The NIH has done a symposium. The
Hmm.
FDA is working on researching better treatment options for PCOS. So there are things that are happening, but again, that all comes from people showing up to things like
Yeah.
Advocacy Day.
Yeah.
They're also in September, that's PCOS Awareness Month. And
September.
we
It's coming up. Well, coming up because we pretty much in the middle of July already. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have PCOS Awareness Month. Last year we have a World PCOS Day on September 1st, and last year we
Mhm.
had over 650 landmarks worldwide light up teal for PCOS awareness, and we tell people to go
Mm.
out and see all of these different locations light up, and again, be present, be proud of your community, and support the awareness that way. And then throughout Awareness Month, we have symposiums, we have celebrities, we have just a lot of people in the community coming together to raise awareness. So I always encourage people to get online, just to put a post up, 1 in 10
Lady,
or 1 in 5.
lady, September is coming up. September is coming up. Men, not just the lady,
Yep.
everybody.
Yeah, because it does. It affects families as well. Because when
Yeah.
one person is dealing with a condition, that means the whole family is dealing with it as well. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I learned so much from you, Ashley, today. I learned about, yeah, and I didn't know it was also affecting psychologically, mentally. Yeah, how that affects, can you tell us about that?
there there are different ways it can impact someone. Um, Hormones can play a role
Oh, you're
in
right.
in mental health. However, we were talking about the gaslighting and people having trouble with body image because maybe they're heavier than they want to be, or
True.
maybe have excess facial hair. So there's
And
a
like
lot of this.
you said a lot of time it trigger people because the doctor was like, "Oh, you probably just not working hard enough or eat less," but that's not. Yeah.
That's not the case. So
Hmm.
um, that can cause a lot of people to become depressed, to have anxiety.
Yeah.
They think about the way people may view them, and they may feel like they're different than other
Yeah.
people. And that also can cause a lot of depression and anxiety.
Get that.
All I can say is I hope people learn that PCOS does not define who you are. You define who you are with the condition. And there, again, are resources. There is support. You are not alone in this. There are millions worldwide. And, don't sit there in silence. Reach out for help. Reach out for resources because they are there.
Well, September, we're all gonna be out there and to make the awareness of PCOS September. Yeah.
Absolutely.
September 1, right?
September
September
1st is
1st.
World PCOS Day, and then PCOS
Next
Awareness Month
year.
runs,
Yeah.
runs throughout the month of September.
Okay.
So there are things to do throughout the entire month, and I usually post a bunch of stuff for people to go to and do throughout the month as well.
People need to follow you on your Instagram because, like you said, you would post it out there, and then I would definitely we remind people to be there to support the community. Okay, for sure. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Ashley. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
to be
much.
on the show today, and then really helping. I really hope whatever we discussed today can help more women at least be more aware and know what they need to do. And the fact that you said, they're not alone, I think that means a lot. Yeah, just a community there.
There
Yeah.
truly is, and that's really what has gotten me through this and has made me the advocate that I am. Because it's not a
Mm.
journey that I went through alone, and I stand on the shoulders of many others.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.